Maybe I have been giving you tons of not so subtle signs that I think you should quit your job. Or maybe I'm not really your therapist and you're just here to get my take on these Reddit posts. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my coworker their office back now that work from home has been canceled? Back in 2023, a woman, Jen, in my building left for maternity leave. After having her child, Jen took advantage of our company's work from home program, which left her office open. I placed in a request for the space with my manager and I was given the go-ahead, so I got to leave my crappy cubicle for my very own private office. My employer has announced that work from home will end on 11/17/2025. Boo! As somebody who absolutely loves working from home, I don't understand why employers are doing this. Do you want your employees to just hate their lives? Why can't it just be a choice and we can all rely on those key performance indicators to see whether employees are doing their job? All right, go on. All employees are to be back in the office by that date. Yeah, that sucks, I know. Yesterday, work from home employees came in for tours and desk assignments. When Jen saw that I was now in her office, she became agitated and asked if I would be leaving so she could take it back over. I told her flatly that I had no intention of giving up the office. So let me get this straight, it has been at least 2 years since this woman left the office. Do you really expect that you're working from home and they're holding the office for you? I get it, that really sucks, and if I were Jen, I'd be looking for a new job, but you can't hold it against the person that took over your office. Jen spoke with a manager about this, and management's immediate decision was that I was under no obligation to move out of the office. I was approached and asked if I had any interest in returning to a cubicle. I said no, and there was no further follow-up from my manager or HR as they both see the matter as closed. Now, just a day later, I'm getting a stink from coworkers who think I'm punishing Jen for something outside her control. Jen has also emailed me asking me to consider the position she's in and that she's already being punished by the company by being compelled to return to the building, and asking me to consider her feelings. Sincerely, I definitely understand how much this sucks for her and everybody else being forced to come back, but I like having my own office. I have lots of stuff in here that I'd otherwise have to carry back home. I'd be giving up the privacy that I've become accustomed to, and if I'm being honest, I enjoy actually having a nice window to look out and none of the noise from the cubicles. Am I the a-hole on this one? Absolutely not. This is really just a situation all around. Like I said, I really wish companies were not trying to strong-arm their employees into coming into the office. Some of us really do better work from home and do better without having to incorporate all the logistics of going into an office and going home every day. But that is pretty obviously not OP's fault. If Jen had only left for maternity leave, I might feel different about this, but it has been 2 years. There's no way that OP should have to expect that at any time their office will be taken from them. Maybe if there's some kind of seniority that factors in here, Jen can be on the short list for people next up to get an office, but that's a pretty big ask to expect someone to go back to having a cubicle at this point. Edit. So something that a few people brought up that I hadn't really considered was the question of, if I vacated the office, would that necessarily mean Jen could have it back? On Monday, my manager had approached me about returning to a cubicle to verify my lack of interest. But this morning, I checked with HR on the policy. Sure enough, you cannot simply choose someone to give your office to, as office assignments are selected by policy. The office would go into the pool if I vacated, which means Jen would be competing with everyone else over it. Several of the work from home people who have returned are more senior than her, and at least one of them is definitely interested in the next bidding that comes up. So Jen would be out of luck. HR is going to circulate a reminder on the office bidding policies. I also brought up the email with my manager, who stated that she will reply to it and CC in Jen's manager to ensure that there's an understanding that this matter should be considered closed. Okay, well that helps to answer that question about the seniority. Is there a reason that Jen had the office? A high position that required privacy for calls or meetings, etc.? If there is no work reason for her to have the office, and HR/your boss aren't telling you have to move, just stand your ground. OP says, my company is weird. We have 15 non-managerial offices. When one becomes available, you may bid on one, and whoever has the most seniority and best performance metrics wins the office. Generally, 1 or 2 offices become available every year because of promotions or turnover. So Jen and I are no different than anyone else in the cubicles. When it became available, I got it because I asked and had seniority and metrics to win over anyone else who'd placed a request. You followed the rules and worked hard. They are trying to subvert the rules and take something from you, not the a-hole. Thank you, Jen, for your request to consider your feelings with regards to my office. After much consideration of your feelings, I have come to the conclusions that my feelings take priority. Ciao. That is very funny, and it's always fun to read snarky Reddit replies to things. I'm sure it goes without saying, but in reality, replying with something snarky like that is sure to further deteriorate the working relationship. It'd probably go over better to actually be more genuine in your response, saying something like, I hear you, but it's actually really important to me to have an office too. I similarly really would prefer to not be in a cubicle, but that is funny. Not the a-hole. Maybe Jen should consider your feelings, as you've been working from the office for years. For her to demand her office back after she moved out of it is really entitled. Call her out to her face and don't tolerate her trying to act like you're the bad guy. Stick to facts and keep emotions out of it. Good luck. If she was returning from mat leave, Jen would have a fair argument about returning to that particular room. But she decided to work from home after her mat leave ended, which freed up the office. OP needs to raise this to HR, citing Jen making the office a hostile work environment because OP isn't giving Jen the office space. Alright, only OP can tell us if it really feels that serious. We know Reddit commenters go to extremes. It seems, based on everything OP has said, that they can probably just push back a bit, hold their ground, and this will all blow over. If it does continue to escalate into a bullying situation, then that might be appropriate. Yeah, I agree with that totally. Jen is causing a lot of issues for OP about this. Her coworkers saying that losing the office was out of her control is false. She could have come back after her maternity leave, but she didn't. She forfeited the office when she decided to work from home. Jen needs to realize that and move on. I think what the other coworkers are saying is outside of Jen's control is her being forced to return to work. But again, that's not OP's fault. That's on the company, and honestly, she should take her frustration up with them. They are defining her as a mom who needed to be at home with children to make that point. That is not a work issue. The other woman chose to work from home and she forfeited her desk, not the a-hole. That's just a random commenter making assumptions, so I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think the real a-hole in this situation is the company. One, they should have had a plan for when the work from home people return so that they can have what they had in the office when they left. Jen should have an office, but that's not OP's problem, without taking it away from the office workers. Two, they should be dealing with this and not letting it create hostile work environments by throwing their hands in the air and making employees who should both have offices fight over this particular office. 3. Why are they returning work from home employees? If it's for community or morale or any other bullshit reason, they are proving how bullshit this is by making employees fight over space. Just let the people work from home. Having the office pick sides in the office location drama isn't good for morale. 100%. I totally agree with that. I feel like this is a classic case of a larger structural problem that people are getting lost in the weeds and blaming each other about. Like, if Jen is gonna be angry at anybody for the position she finds herself in, it should be the company she works for. I was bullied in the workplace for years. I resigned and now I'm meeting with HR on Monday. Hi everyone, I'm looking for some advice because I'm drained and unsure how to move forward. I've been working at my job for a few months. I'm 26 female and one of my coworkers, 50 male, has been extremely aggressive since the day I started. He's been with the company for about 5 years and has always behaved this way. He yells, slams things, and speaks to people in a hostile, demeaning tone. Everyone just accepts it because that's just how he is. He does this to everyone, including customers. It's like working with an abusive parent. Everyone is constantly walking on eggshells, worried about what mood he'll be in, what he'll yell about next, and whether today is going to be the day he blows up again. Yikes. When this kind of behavior is tolerated, it will drive away good employees over and over again. In my first week, he yelled directly in my face. He threw a pen at my head to get my attention. He makes comments about me loudly to other people and yells at the workshop controller and technicians the same way. This is daily, not occasional. now. I had time off recently because my dad passed away, and while I was away, he made comments like, "She's holidaying down there while we're working." Oh my god, dude. How can you have such little empathy for people that you would act like their bereavement time off is a big vacation? That one really stung, and honestly, it was the point where I started to emotionally check out. I raised concerns about his behavior multiple times with both my previous manager and current manager since I started, and I was basically told, that's just who he is, that's his personality. So nothing changed. Companies that brush this kind of behavior under the rug have to decide, is this the type of personality we would prefer to be working here? Because if that's the kind of work environment you foster, you're not going to be able to keep employees who would actually do a good job and make the company look good. Yesterday, after I finally said I couldn't keep working in this environment, he was spoken to by management. When I came in later, he was crying and tried to apologize, but immediately shifted into hostility again, saying, "Well, it's obviously not all good since people are complaining about me." Wow, I don't know if this applies everywhere, but in Massachusetts at least, it's a big deal not to retaliate after somebody's had to talk to HR about your behavior. So I'd be very concerned that he's already showing signs of retaliation. At that point, I resigned on the spot. Only then did everyone start taking it seriously. My boss said they don't want to lose me, and HR was called. Now I have a meeting with them on Monday. One complication, his wife and son also work there, so I'm very concerned about retaliation or the atmosphere if I return. That could definitely explain a little bit why more hasn't been done to address this behavior. I've definitely seen that happen where people who have multiple family members working in the same organization can get away with a lot more. At the same time, maybe his wife and son have also been on the receiving end of this behavior from him. It sounds like the guy does not have good anger management strategies, and that could easily be coming out at them. And maybe they really need people to very clearly express that this behavior is not okay. Because if he talks to his wife and his son the way he's talking to you, that could very easily bleed into verbal. And they may have internalized that as normal, but the company should not be following suit. Despite everything, I actually like my job, and I would stay if the environment became safe and respectful. But I'm scared of going back into the same dynamic, especially if he feels blamed for his own behavior. My questions. Has anyone gone through HR for bullying and seen real change happen? What should I expect in the HR meeting? How do I protect myself from retaliation, especially with his family also working there? Should I continue documenting everything before the meeting? I've started. Realistically, is returning a good idea or should I move on? I don't know the answers to all these questions, but you definitely should keep documenting everything. That goes for anyone who is in a work environment where they're being made to feel uncomfortable. You should document everything in writing that you possibly can. Follow up things with emails. If you have the option and you're willing to go through it, I would contact an employment lawyer. They can tell you even more and they can help provide you with that validity. And in that HR meeting, you probably should bring up that you're concerned about this retaliation so that it can be addressed directly. If wherever you live has laws against retaliation, then that'll be an automatic buzzword for them to pay attention to. Any advice from HR, employment law, or others who have been through something similar would mean a lot. I'm really tired and overwhelmed. Thanks. Update. I wanted to add that I am from Australia, Queensland. Thank you to everyone who commented and messaged me after my original post. The validation honestly helped more than I can explain. I had my HR meeting yesterday morning. When I arrived at work, the coworker who has been bullying me was suddenly being overly nice, asking how my weekend was, trying to act friendly. Later, I found out he spent Friday going around telling people things like, "I don't understand why I have a meeting with HR. I haven't done anything wrong. I've never had a complaint before," which is absolutely not true. His wife, who also works in the same department along with other family members, gave me a death stare when I said good morning and refused to speak to me. I could also hear her talking about me to him and others, so I was already dealing with retaliation before the HR meeting even happened. I asked my manager what time the HR meeting would be, and he said, "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Oh my gosh, this place is just begging for a lawsuit. I just laughed and said, "Yes, and I want you there," because I wanted to show HR that my manager was not taking this seriously. Over the weekend, I had written a 5-page document detailing every incident, comment, example of aggressive discretion, timelines, and wherever possible, witnesses. I did not show my manager beforehand because I knew he would likely try to prevent me from submitting it. I handed it straight to HR. Yes, bestie, I love to hear this. I'm so glad you did that for yourself. When HR read it, they took it seriously. There was no minimizing, no excuses, no, that's just how he is. They were completely shocked. They acknowledged the psychological impact it has had on me. HR also told me that it was the first time they were hearing about any of it. My previous manager never reported anything, despite me raising concerns multiple times. My current manager also had no idea how severe it was, even though I had been trying to tell him, which tells me that a lot of things were being dismissed. HR asked me not to finalize my resignation yet because they wanted to complete a full investigation. They gave me the rest of the day off, fully paid, and told me I do not have to return to the workplace while they interview staff. They confirmed that they have already spoken to others, and multiple people have said that the behavior was happening for years and to many people. They also acknowledged that the family members working in the same department is against company policy, and they understood why that has contributed to me feeling unsafe. HR asked if I could see myself returning if the coworker remained employed. I was honest and said, I can't answer that, but I no longer feel emotionally safe there. After I left, I was told by multiple staff members that the coworker was crying in the manager's office after his HR interview, which to me feels like emotional manipulation because it immediately shifts sympathy back onto him when he is the one who has been aggressive and intimidating for years. I was wondering that too, like, is this a case where he just has such poor emotional regulation skills, or is he using crying as a manipulation tactic? Even though HR is now doing the right thing, I don't believe that the environment will ever be safe for me there again. I don't want to spend my life waiting for the next outburst, hoping people will protect me. I have already spoken to a lawyer and will be getting advice on next steps, possibly including a mutual separation. Standing up for yourself after months of tolerating mistreatment feels like jumping off a cliff, even when it's the only healthy choice. But I'm proud of myself. For the first time in my life, I didn't make myself small to keep someone else comfortable. I will also provide the document below. Oh, I'm so happy for this person that they did stand up for themselves. I just looked through a bunch of comments and I didn't see that document anywhere, so I don't think OP did include it. So let's just go straight to reading some of the other comments. I've been working at my job for a few months and I'm 26 female, ... What should I expect in the HR meeting? Realistically, all HR cares about is if you are going to file a lawsuit or not. They may offer you some sort of token severance with a stipulation that you cannot sue them or say bad things about them. Everyone there, including the managers, already knew how he was acting, so this is not really anything new to HR. If they say that they want you to stay, it will only be to stop a lawsuit. The best outcome is that they offer you a decent sum of money to sign a compromise agreement or an NDA. Yeah, unfortunately, HR does work for the company, not for you, and their purpose is primarily to avoid lawsuits. It makes you wonder how genuine HR's response was in the update that OP provided, or if they're just trying to cover their own ass and say, oh, we had no idea that this was happening. Sorry to hear about your situation. But yes, before your meeting, try and document every incident you can remember with as much detail as possible. Dates, times, comments, instances, and any witnesses you feel inclined to include. Even if you don't plan to return, HR needs to be made aware of the continuous hostile work environment. Be polite but firm in your feelings. Let them know you enjoy your job, but his behavior has made it untenable and hostile. At this point, you've already resigned, so you have nothing to lose or be in fear of. If they attempt to retain you as an employee and you'd consider staying, explain your fear of retaliation. If you don't plan to return to the job under any circumstances, then still go to the meeting and make it clear that your decision to resign is based solely on the hostile work environment. Don't sign anything, and if they attempt to pressure you to do so, ask them for a copy for your attorney to review. But they need to be made aware of this man's actions. They may do something, they may not, but again, you have nothing to lose by explaining exactly why you decided to resign, effective immediately. Good luck, and let us know how it turned out. Then tell them that if they really cared, they would have done something years ago because everyone knows where the problem lies. I'm sure you aren't the only person to leave because of him. Say, I'll be speaking to an employment lawyer, especially if it's true. You were assaulted at work, informed your manager, and the company did nothing. Physically assaulted. Throwing a pointed object at your face is assault. HR wants to meet after you resigned. They are scared. I would document everything as far as incidents with this person. Dates, approximate is okay. Times, what happened and to whom. Any situations with this individual, who witnessed it, and who you told in management. Likewise, document if you said anything to him directly. When you talk to management in the exit interview, you should tell them that you documented everything, including the assault where he threw the pen and hit you, other incidents that you witnessed involving other people, and his improper interactions with customers. Everyone seems to have normalized his behavior because it's his personality. Let them know that his outburst right after he was spoken to by management confirmed that the work environment is hostile because of this individual, and it's better for you to separate yourself from the situation, no matter how much you like the job. Let them know you are seriously concerned for your safety. If they ask you what your plans are, simply let them know that you're going to get advice and will look for another job. You can provide a simple list of incidents, but do not give them your detailed list at this time in case your attorney recommends using it and it will come out in discovery. Don't actually threaten a lawsuit or even suggest that you're talking with an attorney. Do not sign anything saying you won't sue them in exchange for a severance package without first consulting with an attorney to look it over. This type of behavior from an employee puts the company at risk, and management should have been aware without you bringing these specific issues to their attention. Interesting take. I don't see why you wouldn't want the employers to know about the details of every incident with this employee, but I'm no lawyer, so what do I know? 100% there will be retaliation. Probably in the form of alienation though, where staff won't talk to you or will avoid you for fear of being reported to HR. I say this because I am in the exact same situation. I was being abused at my workplace by my lead and foreman, and the last straw was a coworker who got aggressive with me because I couldn't take a joke. So I brought it up with my supervisor and branch manager. 3 weeks after my complaint, lead just stares at me with hate, my foreman doesn't really talk to me, and coworkers avoid me. I would consider this retaliation, which is unfortunate because now I am treated like the bad guy after saying enough is enough. Hope you find a better place to work. Toxic and hostile work environments suck. That's the thing, a work environment like this can have a huge toll on your mental health. It's never a bad idea if you're in a situation like this to at least be applying to other positions, getting your resume out there, taking some interviews, seeing what other options you have. Am I the a-hole for reporting my coworker for medical fraud? So a little bit of background, I am in the Army and I'll explain some of the regulations relevant for those who don't know. I work in the medical field and this is about flu shots. This story is not about how anyone feels about vaccines or flu shots, and I don't want to get into that kind of discussion. This is just about the medical fraud itself. All names have been changed in this story. In Army regulations, you are required to get an annual flu shot. If you have an exemption, you can see your provider and get a medical exemption put on your file. But if not, you have to get the shot. We're beginning our flu shot rodeo and all the medics get their shot first. I am stationed next to Jared and Keith and I overhear Jared say, "I'm not getting that shot. Whatever you do, do not give it to me." Then tell Keith to pretend to stab him and then fill out the paperwork. Everything in my gut is telling me to go to our sergeant and let him know. I know it's honestly not the worst thing ever, but I'm so by the book when it comes to medical. I've already gotten onto Jared's case about breaking HIPAA in the past, and I can't get over this. So eventually I do bring it to our sergeant, and of course they get yelled at. I have no idea where it went from there. Jared is all kinds of pissed at me, but I don't really care about that. I just want to know if I should have ignored it or if I should have said something. Am I the a-hole? I'm pretty sure that when you're in the Army, they are kind of sticklers for everything being by the books. So while this would not have seemed like that big of a deal to me, it would make sense to me that the Army would be filled with people like OP who are a real stickler for the rules. I'm surprised that Jared didn't assume that Keith might rat him out or that somebody would find out in some way. I don't know that much about the Army. If you know more, definitely give me your take down in the comments. But to my understanding, like, all of your behavior is kind of tracked and regimented. So this is an interesting one. I feel like it's kind of hard for a civilian to like give their perspective on this. Not the a-hole. The military is a culture of rules. Do you want someone in your foxhole that cannot follow lawful orders? Or to be in a foxhole with someone you cannot 100% trust? because they don't mind lying and convincing others to lie as well. Or in a foxhole with someone who has the flu. Or in a foxhole with someone who has it coming out of both ends. Not the a-hole. With so many people refusing vaccines and relying on herd immunity, how on earth do they expect that herd immunity to be created? Besides, if Jared gets the flu and gives it to someone who finds out he hasn't gotten the mandated shot, Keith could find himself in hot water as well. Opie says yes, and they have 2 field events coming up in the next few months. We really can't get the flu, especially the medics. We're also set to deploy around April-May. Medical rules exist for a reason, and faking it puts everyone at risk, not just Jared, but the whole unit. You did the right thing by reporting it. Trust is something that the entire military is built on. That and integrity. If you have neither of those, you just have a bunch of boys running around with guns. That seems like a really good point. You know the answer, you're just not looking at it through the right lens. Not the a-hole with the profession you're in. You are the a-hole if you don't report it. Jared is an idiot at best and a danger at worst. When I was enlisted, I was like, hell yeah, give me all your shots. Let's get up to date on everything. And they did. Not long before my contract was up, our entire unit had to get ready for a possible deployment. Even though we all knew 100% I wasn't going, I still got 2 cavities filled, all my shots, and a skin consult on a benign cyst. For free. I'm all for bodily autonomy in any situation, but your job mandates it. You signed up. You don't lie. My job requires updated vaccines and titers pulled up every 10 years for things like the MMR, Hep B, etc. I get them. My dad was one that refused when he was in the army, but he does get really sick with every vaccine, and no doctor has ever figured out why. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you're going into the army, that's kind of what you should expect, is that you have to follow all the rules to a T. I got fat shamed again at work. So since I'm a swim teacher and have been for the past 11 years, I am usually around my coworkers in a one-piece bathing suit. The first time I got called out for my weight was when a mother came up to me and said, "I didn't know you were pregnant." Never a good idea. I feel like I've said this before, but even if I'm pretty sure that somebody is pregnant, I will never assume. I'll kind of beat around the bush and wait for them to tell me. Be like, what's new? What's been going on? I'm just not really much of a fan of any commenting on people's bodies, and I gently corrected her and moved on. That one wasn't bad. It was innocent, she didn't know, and honestly I get it all the time since I work with kids and they have no filter. The second time was when I overheard one of my coworkers on the phone describing me as the chunky one. After that, I didn't eat for 4 days. I hate that for you. I know it's so hard, but we all have to have some kind of a wall up that keeps comments about our appearance from getting in, but that's easier said than done if you're in a really vulnerable and insecure place. It's another reminder of the impact it can have on people when you make unsolicited comments about their bodies. That was a few months ago. So now, today's incident was with a boy that I've had a crush on since I started working here a year and a half ago. I've been trying to get him to hang out with me for like a year, and he's been dubbing me all year. Okay, I don't love that. It really sounds like we're not taking the hint. Like, girl, why are you feeling the need to force yourself on this coworker who is trying to politely get out of hanging out with you? No, thank you. Then I overheard that he hung out with 2 other newer girls at my job, who I'm also friends with. And when I saw him again, I jokingly said, "Oh, you can hang out with them, but not me." And since he felt bad, he finally gave me his number and made plans with me for Friday. He had only been giving me his Instagram all this time. Oh, so you didn't notice that you were high-key pressuring him into it? Oh my gosh, that's so uncomfortable. Like, this man truly was not with me, but I was like, if he wasn't interested, wouldn't he just tell me? So like an idiot, I continued to try and chill with him. Ugh, what could possess you to want to strong-arm him into it? If he's hanging out with the newer girls at your work, that's like a pretty clear indication that he could spend time with you if he wanted, he just doesn't want to. This morning, my friend, the one that he hung out with instead of me, told me that he had said, "You're foul for telling Giselle that we hung out." And she responded like, "Why? Do you not like her?" And he said, "Have you seen that stomach? She's also obsessed with me." Alright, well, the first part of that is a gross and shallow comment. The second part, totally fair. It seems like you are obsessed with him and won't leave him alone. I am always uncomfortable when I hear people tearing down other people's appearance. If I were the friend, I would have been really uncomfortable with that. He could have just said absolutely not, and she's f***ing obsessed with me. This OP is clearly like in the wrong for not being able to take a hint, but I also kind of feel for her because that must be so harsh to hear from your crush. When she told me that, my heart dropped. I thanked her for telling me so I wouldn't look stupid anymore. I waited until I was alone to cry about it. I don't want anyone to know how much those comments affect me. And honestly, I'm so fed up. Like, it's 2026 and we're still body shaming? Like, what the F? What do I do? Well, you leave this guy alone for starters. That is a disgusting comment. Hopefully it wakes OP up from even having a crush on this person after seeing some of those true colors. There's no excusing tearing down people's appearance like that, but it is definitely possible that he was just getting really fed up and at the end of his rope. But Jesus Christ, OP, you need to learn to take a hint. He probably also felt so uncomfortable all this time with her relentlessly pursuing him. Harassing someone for a date for a year is insane behavior, and he should have not given you his number and just gone to HR. You're lucky that you still have a job at this point. He didn't have to shame you, but it sounds like he was having a private conversation and was frustrated with you harassing him. Take this as a lesson that no means no. He has the right not to date you no matter what his reasons are. Quote, I've been trying to get him to hang out with me for like a year and he's been dubbing me all year. Then I overheard that he hung out with 2 other newer girls at my job who I'm also friends with, and when I saw him again, I jokingly said, oh, you can hang out with them but not me. Since he felt bad, he finally gave me his number and made plans with me for Friday. He was only giving me his Instagram all this time. This type of behavior is not acceptable. Hounding someone for a year after they have rebuffed you is not okay. Reverse the sexes and think about the advice you would give a woman who has a male coworker hounding her for an entire year to hang out, then having the entitlement to scold him for who he decides to hang out with. Really not okay. Yeah, I'm really glad that the comments are clocking that and recognizing it as harassment. Like, there's 2 separate things going on in this post. There's the comments about OP's body, which are and people should stop body shaming, but there's also the context that she's harassing this coworker. For the love of God, again, do you really want to be with someone that you have to strong arm into wanting to spend time with you? Except for a few comments, you're getting poor advice on here. You are the problem. I realize that you can't see it. Quite frankly, neither can any of the men that constantly harass uninterested women at work, but it is you. You need to steer clear of your colleague and rethink how you interact with people that you like romantically. You shouldn't be repeatedly trying to get a coworker to spend time with you when disinterest has been shown once, let alone clearly on multiple occasions. You shouldn't be making passive-aggressive remarks about how he hangs out with other people but not you. It's workplace harassment, and you should be thankful that the only thing happening to you is flatly learning just how disinterested he is, rather than official correction from management. I'm assuming gender bias and sympathy for larger women is preventing much of the comments from explaining the reality of your situation to you, but rest assured you need to leave this man alone and learn how to behave appropriately at work. Hopefully this gets through to you. It is blunt, but helpful. Okay, well, to be honest, all the comments I've seen so far have been calling that out, so I don't know if they were different when this person left their comment, but I am glad a lot of people are seeing through the gender bias. Did you think that maybe you're stalking him for a year with no response is the reason that he doesn't want to hang out with you? I read your post and was kind of creeped out. He can hang out with whoever he wants and isn't accountable to you. And yeah, unfortunately, there is still body shaming in 2026. I'm sorry that happened to you. Be kind to yourself. Be with people who truly appreciate you. Yeah, 100% this comment. I think there might be 2 things going on here. One is how people speak about you. The other is about how you interact with your coworkers socially. Talking about anyone by using their physical traits is not a good look. Specifically talking about plus-sized people as fat or pregnant or the chunky one or whatever is happening is bad. Those people need a refresher on good old-fashioned manners. I think you probably need to work on picking up on social cues better. If you've been presenting yourself as available and he was dubbing you, as you said yourself, that means he's not into you. It doesn't mean try harder, especially in the workplace. In my experience, in the workplace, if you can't tell if someone likes you or not, it's better to err on the side of no romantic relationships. Trying to date people at work just ends up being overly complicated and dramatic. Just like you didn't want to come right out and say that you liked him if you didn't have to, he didn't want to come right out and say he wasn't interested if he didn't have to. However, he could have told your friend he wasn't interested in you without mentioning your stomach. You can reject someone without body shaming them. I'm sorry that they hurt you. I feel like OP just needs so much more self-esteem. I literally cannot imagine continuing to pursue someone who has indicated in all these ways that they are not interested. Am I the a-hole for not canceling my vacation and reporting a coworker for harassment? At my job, you can only roll over 250 vacation hours. So come December 31st, if you have over 250 hours, you lose them. They don't pay it out. Every year, my husband and I take several longish 10 to 11 day scheduled vacations, visiting a relative in Florida, family reunion wherever it's being hosted, anniversary trip each fall, etc. I always end up having over 250 hours even though we take those trips. I usually take between the 15th to 18th of December through the 5th or 6th of January off. I have been doing this for 9 years and it's approved. We hired Haley in October. She has made it clear that her son is her life. That's well and fine. I don't care one way or another. Haley came to my desk on Monday and asked me if I would reconsider taking my time off in December. When I asked why, she said that she had requested some time off to travel with her son for the holidays to see her family, but it was denied because I'm off. I just said, no, sorry, and turned back around. That afternoon, Haley sent me an email with an itemized timeline of all the time off I had taken this year. Our team has a shared calendar so we can know when the others are out of the office, and asked me to please reconsider, and she CC'd our boss. I will be honest, this severely pissed me off. I don't butt into anybody else's business, ever. I don't care if I see your ass parked on the 50-yard line at the Eagles game on the same day you called in sick. Go Birds. As long as I'm not having to do your work, I do not care. I emailed back immediately saying that I don't appreciate her combing through my vacation time and that my answer was still no and I did not want to discuss the matter further. Yesterday morning, I was called into a meeting with my boss Lisa and Haley. Lisa jumped right in saying that she saw Haley's email and my response and Haley wanted to meet. I told Haley and Lisa both, I will not be canceling my vacation. Haley starts raising her voice about how my child-free traveling should take a back seat to working class mothers and their kids. She claimed that I hate kids from my remarks in the workplace and she felt like I was retaliating for the cause. Both Lisa and I were shocked at the accusation. I am child-free by choice. My husband and I have lots of nieces and nephews as well as godchildren, and we are happy. We do not hate kids. Lisa knows this as well. We have worked together in total for about 15 years. I told Haley that she's making a false accusation and this is now an HR matter. I got up and left the meeting even though Lisa asked me to stay. About a half an hour later, I got another email from Haley informing me that she was asking Lisa to make the call to revoke my PTO and to be fair to others on our team. Then I overheard her telling a team member that I'm not letting her take time off because I hate kids and I'm part of the hateful child-free community. That was the last straw for me. I attached both of her emails and wrote an email to HR about her harassing and slandering me. I gave the name of the coworker she was talking to in the conversation context as well. I hit send and forwarded it to my boss afterwards so she knew what was going on. About an hour later, I found out that Haley has a meeting with HR on Friday, and she will more than likely be fired. The coworker she complained to told me that he felt I overreacted and that she was just venting about finding childcare for the holidays because of work, and I should have sat down to talk about it more. A friend who is also a colleague who told me about the meeting said she thought I let my anger get the best of me and now Haley may lose her job when she's just a stressed out and overly tired mother having a bad day. I will admit that I used the buzzwords of harassment and slander to get my point across, but it had been 2 days of an asked and answered conversation and I was done with it. So am I the a-hole for reporting her over this incident? P.S. I am not the only one off. We are a team of 5 people and 2 other coworkers are also off during the time she wants. But they have children. And the remarks? She asked me when she started why I don't want kids, and I said I like coming home to a quiet and clean house. That's the extent of the remarks. Wow, well it sounds like if anybody is biased, it's her against people who are child-free. Am I also understanding that OP has been at this company for 15 years and Haley just started a couple months ago? The expectation that your PTO should get priority over someone who's been there for years is so entitled. I can't even believe it. Edit. I am in the US, Midwest, and my company is huge on work-life balance due to burnout in our field. You're eligible to use your PTO after 30 days and it accrues fast. After looking, Haley is eligible for 52 hours of PTO to date. Yeah, this seems like another situation of misdirected frustration. Why isn't Haley taking it up with the company itself? Is it really that big of a deal if she takes PTO at the same time? Edit 2. A lot of questions about my vacation time, lol. During COVID, my company allowed us all to roll over PTO from 2020 to 2022 because of the no travel stuff happening. In 2023, they moved the bar from 150 hours, 4-ish weeks, up to 250, 6-ish weeks rollover because a lot of people complained about losing a lot of time when they weren't able to travel. You were not required to bank your time. Some people took theirs and traveled. We took the pandemic seriously and did not travel at all in 2020 to mid-2021. And then we stayed home most of the first half of 2022 as well before we started traveling again in October of 2022. So I banked my 250, and because I'm still accruing, I have a lot of hours built up. We do snow activities that are free in the winter, so we barely travel, and we don't start traveling until May of each year. And by that time, I've accrued even more time. Hope this helps. Not the a-hole. That is not venting, that is creating a hostile work environment. She only started in October. How much time does she think she's entitled to? A lot of companies don't even allow PTO usage in the first 90 days. Tell the coworker they could have volunteered to cover for the new person. And having only started in October, perhaps she should have been working as opposed to playing private investigator with OP's calendar and emailing and chatting about her own woe is me circumstances on December 1st. Yeah, that's the thing too. This is really not a good look for Haley. Like, you're causing problems this early in with somebody who's been in the company for years and years. That is not gonna bode well for you. Haley probably thought that her motherhood status was sacred and would take priority over everyone else. Sounds like she was in her probationary period, so kicking her to the curb won't be too hard. Yeah, it's such an interesting form of entitlement. I've never met anyone in real life that act like this. I think it must be parents who overly identify with that role, like they don't feel like they have anything outside of being a parent, or possibly who are really upset about their life choices and the fact that they have these responsibilities. I don't understand the hostility some people feel towards others who choose not to have kids. It takes a village to raise kids, and that village is much more compromised if every single person has their own rugrats running around. Questioning anyone's reasoning or motivation for being child-free is a giant line-crossing no-no. Do you have kids? Is fine, but you don't know if someone has lost a child, has tried but is unable to have kids, or whatever the case may be. It's none of your business, and that alone can be an HR issue. And that's not even touching the fact that she was already approved for time off before Haley even asked. I was thinking that too, like that is so inappropriate to be grilling people about. You really have no idea what other people are going through. It's so rude. I love hearing stories of people who really let them have it and just say like, yeah, we've been trying to have kids for years, but we can't. But you also don't owe anybody that conversation about something that might be a sensitive topic for you. Like, do we not know better at this point? Her asking you was inappropriate. You could have been somebody who had to deal with infertility and miscarriages, who desperately wanted to have children and couldn't have them. She has no way of knowing your situation. It was intrusive, and she was looking for a way to leverage the fact that you have no children. She was creating a hostile work environment, and this is most likely her attitude that will continue in the future. Not the a-hole. She started it and escalated it. You just matched her energy. Just because you're child-free doesn't mean people with children are more entitled to your vacation days. You did not overreact. OP said, not that she even asked, but we have plans as well. My mother-in-law passed away earlier this year, and I'm surprising my husband with a 5-day tropical getaway for New Year's Eve so that he isn't so down. Wow. Again, even if you were single and you just wanted to sit in your house for that week, you are entitled to your own PTO that's already been approved. But what a great reminder that you never know what's going on in someone else's life. She doesn't need to know that. She should have been an adult and accepted your no. All of your coworkers who think you overreacted are lying. They know full well they would not allow someone to harass and slander them. I don't think you used buzzwords. I think you used the correct words, and words matter. You did the right thing. If she is fired, it will be because of her own behavior, not because of you. I'm sorry about your mother-in-law. I hope the family is able to celebrate this year and remember her fondly. Unless she wasn't a nice person, but I don't get that vibe. Also, if a job doesn't pay out for PTO, then revoking your PTO usage would not sit well with me either. This commenter has a really good point that if she is fired because of this, it is because of her own behavior. Her behavior was inappropriate and unacceptable in the workplace. And honestly, if they take action on that, good for them. Not the a-hole. She started it by going to your boss and making unfounded accusations because she didn't like that you had seniority. Yes, you used buzzwords that carry a lot of weight, but your accusations happened to be true, while hers were outright lies. Your company will be lucky to get her out now. People with her level of entitlement always make problems in the workplace. If she won here, this wouldn't be the last time she created issues. I'm baffled that Haley actually thought Lisa would give her OP's time off after OP point blank said, "This is an HR matter and I will be escalating this to them." That should have been Haley's sign to shut up about it and just take the L and plan to work hard enough to have time off next year. This is on Lisa for not getting Haley in check when she got out of pocket the first time. Ooh, interesting take. I don't know a double-digit yeared veteran of any company that wouldn't be pissed at some newbie, not even out of their probationary period, making demands and running their mouth like that. Responding the way you have means that you only have to fob off goobers like that newbie once. When they feel that bold that soon in, they only become more and more of a nightmare, especially if their manager doesn't shut them down themselves. I would also be pissed at Lisa if I were you, and I would want to know what the F she was thinking. It's each person's own responsibility to keep themselves employed. Don't act a fool if you want to keep your job, not the a-hole. I think this is a really good point because the manager helps to set the tone and to let employees know what is and isn't acceptable in the workplace. OP says, "My boss is extremely non-confrontational. I've worked with her for 15 years and under her for 8, and I know better than to let her resolve an issue. I could already hear that her solution would have been for Haley to tell me what days she needed covered and I could agree to cover X amount to keep everyone happy, and I wasn't letting that happen. Haley came at me aggressively to begin with, and the first email wasn't addressed by my boss until Haley asked for a meeting, so I was already on high alert." Once again, we see those consequences of being too much of a people pleaser, trying to keep the peace. Ultimately, that just emboldens bullies and entitled people to scare you into getting what they want. That is so ridiculous, and I feel like Haley deserves whatever's coming to her in that HR meeting. This is another workplace bullying story. "Hey, so I'm 38, female, and work in a government job as an RDA. Rural Development Advance, Restricted Data Access, I don't know what that is. I am writing to seek advice regarding ongoing workplace conduct that is negatively impacting my ability to perform my duties in a professional and psychologically safe environment. Since returning to the workplace, I have experienced a consistent pattern of behavior from multiple colleagues that includes exclusion from routine interactions, gossip, passive-aggressive remarks, mocking comments, and dismissive conduct. These behaviors occur regularly and appear directed toward me as the youngest employee and as a contract worker. When I have attempted to address the concerns or advocate for respectful communication, I have been perceived as difficult, which has discouraged further dialogue and contributed to a dynamic where inappropriate behavior goes unaddressed. As a result, I have limited my responses to task-related communication only, though the behavior has persisted. I would like to emphasize that this is not an isolated incident or interpersonal disagreement. The pattern reflects a broader issue of professional conduct and workplace culture that undermines collaboration, inclusion, and psychological safety. The cumulative impact has affected my well-being and my ability to contribute effectively in my role. I know this is long-winded, and yes, I am actively job hunting. I'm absolutely leaving the dental field. Oh, dental field. A registered dental assistant. It's been trauma after trauma. I guess I'm just looking for advice as I am truly suffering, experiencing panic attacks, crying daily, having horrible insomnia, etc. Yes, I've been gray rocking, but it's really hard, and when the jab comes flying, all I want to do is curl up and run away. Thank you for any helpful words of wisdom or advice. Also, as a contract worker, I do not have job security. This makes me really sad for OP. It never feels good to be bullied and have that impacting your quality of life across the board. I haven't really experienced bullying since I was in middle school and high school, but it can seriously make you so miserable. It can destroy your self-esteem, and I remember counting down the days until I would be out of that environment. So to think of being bullied in a job where maybe there's no end in sight is really heartbreaking. I am no longer in the workforce, but I was always blessed to be in places where people were respectful of one another. While there may have been some workplace gossip, there was none of the type of bullying and backstabbing I see posted so much. I don't want to say it's generational or to point at any particular segment of the population, but it seems more prevalent online now than what I was used to. I can't believe grown adults feel the need to be so childish and hateful, and that workplaces tolerate it and in some cases engage. All I can say is stay strong, illegitimi non carborundum, don't engage, and always be on the lookout for something else. Your next assignment may be better. OP said, "Thank you, I appreciate it." I'm also truly baffled by the entire scenario. I've been in the workforce for over 20 years and never experienced anything to this level. Unfortunately, the older ladies are giving their generation a horrible reputation. Again, thank you for your kind words. Keep your focus on the fact that you are mentally checked out of this place. These are no longer your people, and you are broadening your horizons to a new role. If your mental and physical health continue to further decline, that is the point where you need to evaluate staying to collect paychecks or bugging out to protect yourself. OP says, I give myself a pep talk every morning before I go in. I'm on the cusp of having to leave to save what's left of my mental and physical well-being. Thank you. Oh, this is so awful. Like, how can you have such little empathy that you have to keep making somebody's life a living hell? I currently teach at a state college. I was ostracized due to jealousy so that I could not get hired full-time. I work 2 different campuses, and I am in the process of finishing up at the one campus where I was ostracized, so I can round it out peacefully at the other, and then the job hunt begins. Higher ed was only a stepping stone, never a home, and my lesson is that I need to learn to surrender those wants and feelings instead of fighting them. When I get to the campus I hate, I breeze through the lecture, students are happy when the lecture ends early, and I leave immediately. I would have already quit had it not been for the 35 students that signed up to take the course with me. I owed it to them more than myself. OP said, thank you for sharing your experience. I am sorry you were ostracized. It's tough when people who need healing and peace project it onto others. I absorb energy and have a difficult time detaching emotionally. My coworkers are absolutely jealous and trying to push me out so I don't get a permanent position as well. It's hard to be on the receiving end of such bitterness and hate. Life's too short. Thank you for your response. Life literally is too short to be bullying people. Like, why do you want to spread that kind of negativity? I know it's an old adage, but it really does say more about them than it does about you. How do I deal with a coworker telling me on a daily basis that I look tired? The first few times I thought it was genuine concern, and I told them that I'm fine or just need rest, etc. I have a lot going on outside of work, and some days I might be more energetic than others, but nobody has ever said this to me before. This coworker keeps saying it to me daily. You seem tired, and making a point to come up to me directly to tell me. Or today, when I was in a good mood, said to me twice at different points of the day, I'm glad you don't seem tired today. You seemed very tired last week. How do I even respond to this? It didn't bother me the first couple of times, but I don't get how it's suddenly become a daily thing. It's genuinely putting me in a bad mood to constantly be told this, which I think may be the objective. Any advice would be appreciated. Thanks. That is so bizarre. What would the motivation be with something like that? It kind of seems like a form of like negging or a way to tear down your appearance. That's so inappropriate. I would just go, yup, every single time. Gray rocket. OP says, I've been trying to do that, but it doesn't seem to stop the comments. If anything, they've become more frequent. Thank you though, I should try to be less annoyed by it. Yep, everyone saying I look tired keeps making me actually tired. I would personally give them a breezy non-answer, like question them back without answering. Are you tired? Or why would you say that every day? Are you tired yourself? Then dramatically look concerned so that they know you know their game and you're not affected. The key is to not show any real emotions, whether by word or your tone of voice. Anticipate and prepare in front of the mirror before you leave for work, and question them back the same thing with faux concern every time without fail, with an amused look. Also, update us on how this goes. There is a thing called an extinction burst in psychology. Basically, the more you gray rock, the more it'll frustrate this person because you're not reacting the way they want you to. They'll attempt to make more comments, but stand firm, gray rock it to the max, and don't let anything show. Then they'll give up because it's not worth their energy to keep trying. Essentially, it'll get worse before it gets better, but gray rocking is exactly the way to make them stop this commentary. That could be the case. It kind of depends on what this person's motivation is. Like, if they are trying to bully OP, is there an audience listening that is reinforcing this? My response is, I'm not tired, just ugly, said with a slightly manic grin. That usually shuts them up. I agree with this actually. Every once in a while, I get a patient who asks me if I'm pregnant. I just answer that no, I'm fat. They never ask again. I always say, nope, just eating real good. This sounds like subtle harassment disguised as concern. I'd directly tell them, I appreciate your concern, but I'm fine and would prefer you not comment on my appearance daily. Then immediately follow up with an email summarizing the conversation to create a paper trail. If it continues, loop in your manager or HR, since daily appearance comments can create a hostile work environment. I've been using this site to document these kind of repeated workplace interactions, since verbal conversations are hard to prove later if things escalate. Yes, add in that it seems inappropriate and is making you uncomfortable. This language indicates that you plan to or have already filed with HR. You could try, what a strange thing to comment on, or what an inappropriate thing to say to someone, or I think it's concerning that you find it necessary to comment on a part of my appearance I literally have no control over, or you seem nosy today. I love those kind of responses. That's my personal favorite. Something that can kind of push the discomfort back onto them because they're the ones saying something inappropriate. That is all I have for you today. Thank you again so much for watching. Please subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.